good afternoon. My name is Terry Lyon. I head up Argano's sales and marketing team for digital supply chain at Argano. Thank you all for joining us today. We welcome you to Argano's web series on unlocking the value of digital transformation for mid-sized companies. And we're really excited. It's our pleasure today to have a discussion with Mike Broaders, who is a Chief Supply Chain Officer at Morgan Foods. We'll hear a little bit more later on Mike's background and the Morgan Foods business, and we're looking forward to that. Today, he's going to share some insights from their journey on how they've been digitizing their business processes to enable really growth and a responsive business. So let's go ahead and get started here with the agenda. We'd like to start today talking about some trends in mid-sized companies. There've been a lot of challenges in marketplace and a lot of common things, but many mid-sized companies have been able to really excel despite having those challenges and headwinds. Some of this is through the ability to collaborate across their business areas and really have better visibility to a single source of truth. And it's really unlocked by some possibilities that the cloud solutions and SAP in particular can bring to the table. We'll be talking, as I said, with Morgan Foods Chief Supply Chain Officer Mike Broaders and on their journey. And we'll talk a little bit on how Argano partnered with Morgan Foods to help make these things possible. Now, as I mentioned, and as we all know, there have been a lot of economic challenges and in recent years, pandemics, inflation, supply chain disruption, port blockages, a lot of material shortages, and we all struggle to get the workers we need and to retain them in the workforce. These same challenges were echoed in a recent survey by IDC in January of this year. You could see how those challenges stacked up in the mid-sized companies that they surveyed there. Now, these companies all have goals that they're trying to achieve despite these challenges, attracting new customers, maybe entering new geographies, trying to enter new marketplaces, growing revenue, and becoming more efficient and productive. And then, of course, there's a sustainability focus. Everybody trying to be more efficient and more responsible with the resources that we use. So despite these challenges in the marketplace, many mid-sized businesses, the leaders there, have been able to grow their business, their revenues, their market share by over 10%, whereas those that are aspiring and falling behind are pretty much leveled off or maybe even decreasing their revenue and market share. And what IDC's survey highlighted is that there are some common themes with mid-sized companies that have enabled them to persevere through some of these headwinds. One of the trends was that 92% of the leading companies that were seeing that revenue growth, that market share growth, were planning to use or already using an ERP system. And 81% of those leaders versus 36% of just the aspiring companies were already on a digital transformation journey, trying to digitize their business and advance it for common workflows. And all this together, 91% of those leading companies said that they were more effectively able to respond to a lot of the disruptions that were coming over the last 2 years. So a lot of common themes there, which really sets us up for our discussion here. What we'd like to do is hear a little bit from you throughout this presentation. On the screen now is a poll for you. You'll have about 30 seconds to get through that, but want to get a sense from you on your organization's top imperatives and how they apply to what you're doing. So please share your thoughts there as we go through this presentation, and we'll be able to make this more relevant to you. I'm going to go ahead and move on here. What we've seen at Argano with our customers and just in the marketplace in general is that the transformation and the benefits of that really come from interconnected business. And what we mean by that is interconnecting your silos within your business, the functional areas, and also connecting more completely with your customers and your suppliers, right? And so a lot of the common struggles we see with our clients, they're asking questions like, how much do I need from my suppliers? How can I respond to changes in demand? Or maybe I have special types of demand, and we'll probably hear a little bit from Mike today about special demands he gets from the USDA, for example. And how can I compare options for how I would approach these constraints and challenges? And really, how do I simultaneously account for limitations in my resources, my labor pool, transportation, storage, materials constraints, when those are probably 5 or 6 different people or organizations in my business? And how do I do that and ensure that they can make decisions together and come up with an effective plan? So the benefits that this interconnected business drive in the face of these struggles really come from the fact that every department impacts customer experience. You know, it's not just that what's going on at the warehouse or the shipment going out the door that interfaces with the customer or your CSR. You know, each of these areas really impacts the customer experience and helps drive your revenue and market share. So these interdepartment communications, if you can drive them to an area where they're facilitated by a single source of truth, it really can speed the decision making and make the ability of the organization to respond much greater. Obviously, getting a single source of truth then also allows you to have better visibility through analytics and drives better decision making. And so you also need standard proven business processes to replace offline spreadsheet processes or other things that people have that are pretty much either in their head or on their individual laptop and aren't accessible to the whole organization to make decisions. So one of the trends here is that there's a lot of possibilities, and cloud solutions have really opened the door for mid-sized companies to innovate and transform, and specifically cloud solutions with SAP. You know, it wasn't too long ago that a lot of these types of systems would only have been accessible for enterprise scale, very large customers that had significant IT organizations. But the reality is that customers of all sizes are using SAP Cloud solutions, and 80% of SAP's customers are mid-sized companies. These companies are growing many times faster than maybe the larger ones. And so when we showed those statistics earlier about the ability to grow even through the challenges that everybody has been facing over the last few years, these types of solutions really help to drive that. You know, there's options in this space. There's public cloud, private cloud options. SAP gives you those types of flexible solutions that allow you to meet the needs of your business. These cloud solutions provide enterprise quality solutions with mid-size accessibility. They allow you to start on small targeted areas that maybe are your burning platforms and grow the impact throughout your organization. They provide predictable cost and budgeting, and they are upgraded on frequent cycles so that you get the advantages of new technology that come to you through cloud upgrades versus traditional upgrades that were much more disruptive. Partner ecosystems, partners like Argano, provide support for implementation, for advisory, for change management to ensure that you not only get solutions installed, but that the organization can understand them, adopt them, and realize the value. We're going to pause again for another question here about your biggest challenge in your organization on your journey. And so here's some potential options that are out there. If you think others the right choice, maybe put a text in a Q&A box, and we'll be able to follow up on those particular challenges that you might be facing. All right. So that's the introductory material on the mid-sized company challenges and the opportunities in front of us. And what we're really excited about being able to do here is have a discussion with Mike Broaders. Mike is joining the call here with Morgan Foods. Mike is their Chief Supply Chain Officer, many years of experience. I'll let him share a little bit of that, but certainly been in industry for quite a while in the food industry with Campbell Soup and now with Morgan Foods. But Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce Morgan Foods and what you guys got going on.
Okay, thanks, Terry. First of all, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and the listening audience. It's a pleasure for sure. With respect to myself, I've been in the supply chain space for 30 plus years with experiences from the Pepsi-Cola company, Coca-Cola company in various leadership roles. In addition to Campbell Soup, I did a short stint of private equity work and, currently with Morgan Foods going on a couple years now as the Chief Supply Chain Officer, and it has been a pleasure working in that capacity. To give everybody a little context with respect to Morgan Foods, this business was born back in 1899, over 100 years ago. It started modestly in packing, in the canning business and packing tomatoes and pumpkin products. However, it has grown tremendously over that period of time. On the screen, I listed just a little bit of background information of the generations of people and family members that has grown this company. From 1917, 1948, at one point, there were 3 generations of Morgans working at the facility. One of the major changes that took place in this business back in 1971 is that Morgan Foods officially entered the co-pack business and private label brands, meaning that they started to produce products for individual companies and label them with their particular labels and badges on them. Today, Morgan Foods manufactures soups, beans, broths, gravies, and sausage for retail customers. Currently, this is, Morgan Foods is led by John Morgan, who's 4th generation, and his daughter Kelly is 5th generation. That is leading our way to the future. Currently, there's approximately 800 associates at Morgan Foods in 2 campuses. One is in Austin, Indiana, and the other one is located in Saline, Michigan, where we produce Tetra Pak products for retail customers and co-pack customers. As we continue to talk about the Morgan Foods Network, this particular slide here gives you context of what we do and our process and practice. Obviously, we secure raw materials. Ultimately, we produce, we can them, we store them, and ultimately we get them to the customer, consumers to ultimately enjoy. Breaking that down a little bit further, when you look at our supply base, and what makes Morgan a little different from some other companies is that we produce our products. However, there is a main focus on what I call brights. It is technically work in progress, or WIP. And we like to store more products in WIP because we can convert them faster instead of putting them into full goods, waiting on a demand signal to consume them. So the boxes below basically detail several layers of that supply chain that we focus on. Obviously, raw material warehouses, WIP, which is what we call bright in our operation. We definitely focus on full goods because that's key with respect to getting our products to customers. But before we convert them into full goods, we label them and put them in trays to get to that particular point. In some instances, we store for several days before they are moved to customers, and sometimes those orders are direct from our facility directly to those customers, so they move somewhat quicker. I'll transition to the next slide. With respect to technology in the Morgan Foods timeline, it's a lot going on this slide, and I'll try and break it down into the most important buckets here. We've got it labeled with initiatives, the key technology, and the business processes. As you can see on that top line, Morgan Foods has been a user of SAP for plus 20 years. However, over the last 5 to 6 years, Morgan Foods has really made a transition to utilize the technology much closer and much better with its associates. So what that takes is leadership from the leadership top down to make certain that these are the tools that we're going to ultimately use. Looking at our digital core back in 2017, 2016, obviously we focused on demand and supply planning, production planning, and currently today in 2023, we're focusing on the procurement planning. All of this arrived as a result of complexity and a result of the benefit of growing customers over a period of time. And as you have this complexity, it leads into needing technology to obviously solve some of your challenges on a day-to-day basis. And that's exactly what we did. When you look at the key technology, you think about SAP, IBP, Integrated Business Planning, S4 HANA, and then PPDS, Production, Detailed Scheduling, Production Planning is what we're using today. When you think about under each of those linchpins there and business processes, it engages the total business, finance, order management, demand planning, our WIP planning, label planning. The S&OP process is much more robust from what it was months and months and obviously years ago. The schedule for that work in process, or brights that we call them, the label schedule, which is very specific because we label fairly quickly. And also we look at raw material alerts, the forecast, and collaboration with our suppliers. Our journey has begun. We have a lot more work to do in this space. We're looking at SAP Ariba, master data governance. We're looking at the logistics pieces of our business and really connecting things from end to end to make certain that we're delivering a total package and complete products to our customers on a day-to-day basis. So Terry, from that perspective, I'll turn it back to you, but that's a little bit about Morgan Foods, a little bit about myself, also a little bit about the timeline with respect to the journey that we've been on from a technology space and perspective, and also a little bit more detail just around our business. So Terry, I'll flip it back to you.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. So I thought we'd have a little time for some Q&A here. And Mike, I want to actually, we'll back up to that last slide. We'll just keep that in. Whoops. Sorry.
There we go.
Keep that in view. We'll stay right there. Yeah, let's talk a little bit. I mentioned earlier in the presentation this concept of a single source of truth. And you have, you've got demand, you've got the sales team, you've got procurement, you've got people planning for the WIP, you've got others planning for the transportation and for things of that nature. Talk a little bit about the value of the single source of truth that you've seen by putting the combination of these solutions together.
Yeah, Terry, very good question. I think that when you start with the single source of truth and just lay that out, you look at the demand signal and the forecast, everything starts there. And ultimately, the ultimate goal is to get product to your customers. Well, what this does for us is it truly gives us visibility. Visibility in all aspects of our business, from a raw material perspective, all the way through to that demand that the customer ultimately needs and what we sell to customers. So it's an end-to-end view, and it gives us that visibility, and it makes our conversations much more collaborative and very holistic when we're trying to drive decisions across our business. So from that perspective, I think that we're reaping the benefits of having that visibility and breaking things down into their individual components that build up to, what we need to ultimately deliver to a customer on time and in full.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, one of the things that you mentioned that we're getting started is the procurement plan that, we've gotten to the point where you're looking at demand planning and supply planning, but that also then cascades to a requirement on those materials, and being able to share that and collaborate on that with your suppliers. I know that's the next step in your journey that we're starting here with you, but you can see how it builds on itself.
Yes, it does. One comment there, Terry, is that a lot of work that we have had done in the past is we relied on Excel, looking at our inventory holding positions, and then trying to understand what we're producing, how much we're producing, and when we're producing, to give and also factor in lead times ultimately with that to try and determine how much we're going to have left and can we produce even more. Well, with the engagement of the tools, IBP, and alerts for that matter, we've gotten much better where we've got quicker signals currently today that alert us and say, hey, we've got a problem in one category of raw materials or another, so that we can reach out to our suppliers and obviously do something about it ahead of time. With the end goal, meaning that we want to ultimately sell those products and that demand to our customers when they need it and how much they need.
Yeah, the next area I wanted to talk a little bit about, we see some technology things here, but on the bottom we have the business process as well, right? So the importance of, you mentioned spreadsheets and taking people from a spreadsheet world into this other world. There's a transition there on the process and on the people side. And maybe you could talk a little bit on the, maybe on, I know we focused recently on the S&OP process and had spent some time on the training there. So maybe share a little bit about that.
Yeah, Terry, I think that's critically important too. I think that with the company as rich in tenure as Morgan Foods, there's a lot of people that are fully engaged in this business, obviously to support our customers. However, that's a lot of knowledge that people have in their individual roles. What we've begun to do is truly collaborate, and obviously around IBP, S4HANA, and PPDS, it allows us to really take that engagement to another level because we're looking at longer range plans, midterm plans, and then ultimately tactical and day-to-day. So we start to break things down. With that being said, We are starting to get rid of those Excel spreadsheets that we were using with the sidebar conversation that says, I think that this number's right. Ultimately, over time, we're graduating to a space where we're believing in the inputs and the data that we put into the system to give us that right output. Currently today, we're still working through that. And that's the fun part about this, is that we're still trying to figure out all the puts and takes and all of the necessary key ingredients of information that we need to feed in to make sure that we get the right solutions.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, and maybe you could share a few lessons learned through this process. I know that going back a few years here, but what are some things, that nuggets of knowledge that you would pass on to others that are considering or have already started this journey?
I think that first and foremost, this takes everyone's commitment. And what I mean by everyone, this is from top leadership all the way down through the organization. You have to have it led by leaders, and you have to have people believe in what we're doing to give us an output that obviously supports us. A lot of people will look at this and say, well, will it lessen the work and the day-to-day responsibilities for someone? I don't think so. I think it goes more so into a mode of letting the system do the work. And this is much more exception-based, where you're looking at the data and the outputs and making adjustments as a result of that. So for us, I think lesson learned is, number one, you have to have your leadership behind it. And then you have to be able to talk openly and collaborate across the organization to make sure that everyone has buy-in. If you don't have those two ingredients, this is basically going to fail, because it is hard work. It is a different approach from what normal would be. And what we're trying to do is break away from the normal, but keep our normal practices and our people in place to make sure that we use the system to give us the right results every day.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Well, I'm gonna move on here and give folks a little background. We've been on this journey with Morgan Foods for a few years as Argano. We started the journey with Morgan Foods doing a roadmap assessment to try to identify where we would start first. That's a pretty common challenge. Morgan was already on the journey. They had already done some ERP work and started putting some of the building blocks in place for some of the demand and supply planning, but needed some assistance there. And so, and we've been doing this about every year now, is sort of evaluating with Mike and his team, what are the next priorities and what are we gonna tackle to take it to the next level? How do we take the benefits that we've already had and solidify them, and what is the next thing we move along to? But Argano brings experience and capability with SAP. We have recognized experience across the solutions and business process areas that Mike talked about, and across many industries. We are a global company headquartered here in Dallas, with about 60% of our delivery team here in North America, and 40% in other areas, client success centers across the world. We do support a variety of practices, from supply chain to finance to data and analytics, integration and cloud migration activities as well. So, whether it's core ERP, digital supply chain, including supply chain planning, but also the logistics and warehousing and manufacturing. And we talked a little bit with Mike about extending this into procurement and the business network, and how do you collaborate with your suppliers? How do you do strategic sourcing? How do you how do you source both indirect and direct materials in an efficient way. These are all activities that Argano can pull this together with that single source of truth and the power of how these SAP systems are built to work together. And then the fourth leg here is that people, process, and change management capability that we also. And so what you'd get with Argano is not just a technology tool implementer, but a partner on the journey who's taking care of the change management, who's taking care of the helping with the training, the business process consulting. How do you migrate from spreadsheet processes onto these, and how do you now use this tool that gives you different visibility than you ever had before, right? It introduces new workflows, and then all that needs to be thought through as well. And so it's how do you integrate the three of these things together with the eye on realized value, not just the eye on the go live.
Hey, Terry, can I make one comment with regards to something you said on the prior slide?
Yeah, sure. I can go back.
I've created your
one thing I will definitely add is the partnership is key. I didn't speak about that much on the other slides, but as I think through this, the engagement and the collaboration with Argano has been top notch, meaning that you pick up the phone and there's someone live that is supporting your challenges and your issues. With regards to lesson learned, that's one of them also that I missed earlier, but it is very, very key to have a partner such as Argano that helps you get through those challenging times where you run into some roadblocks that you don't always understand. They were there to ultimately help us. And obviously we're in a better place today as a result of that partnership and collaboration.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. And we love being there to help see the results. And it's good to see those things starting to emerge. So whether it's different organizations have different capabilities in these areas, and we customize. Maybe you have some change management resources. Maybe you have somebody that does trainings, and so we can shape our team to match your team, and support where you need resource. Maybe you need somebody to help with the business process and to codify it into a playbook. It's one thing to have a workshop and to draw it on the board, but to actually have a playbook that the team can now go and execute to is a difference. Sometimes you find these solutions, you get them into place, they serve the needs for 3 or 4 months, but the business changes. You need to have the model tuned. The statistical modeling may need some tuning. And so it's not a big engagement to re-engage, but being there and helping the customer on the journey to make sure that they can tune that model, and we can bring the expertise in, even if it's in just bite-sized support areas. Here's another point we want to pause and get some collaboration from the audience here. I just want to gauge where you are on your transformation journey here. Is this something new, something you've heard about, but maybe it's not budgeted? Maybe it's budgeted but you need to develop a roadmap. Maybe you have a roadmap and you need some help selecting solutions or partners. And maybe it's another. And like I said, if others your choice, maybe share in the Q&A box, and we'll make sure we can get back to you on some strategies. So I talked about Argano's SAP practice. Argano is is a global company. We have these client success centers in 5 different regions of the U.S. The company has joiners have been in existence for over 25 years and over 1,400 clients, many of which are in the Fortune 100 and Global 2000, but also many of which are mid-sized companies. We have been awarded by the companies like SAP we work with, have many certifications, and one of the areas that we pride ourselves on is our average Net Promoter Score is 65. It's a rating of how your customers and clients promote you to others, and in our industry, it's not uncommon. The averages are between 20 and 30 scores, and so we pride ourselves, and we have businesses within Argano that have come from a more boutique background, but that we've achieved scale with that. So you get the benefits of scale, but the customer focus of a boutique consulting firm. And so we take great pride in that and defend our boutique roots. And we support many industries here. You see a sampling of them here. Obviously today we focused on the food and beverage industry, but these concepts, if you're making goods, distributing them, and buying materials from suppliers, we're likely working in your industry. So I'd like to close here and thank everybody. I'd like to thank Mike for joining us today. Thank everybody for their time here. I would like to say that we'll follow up with the attendees. We will be at SAP's Sapphire event coming up later this month in the 3rd week of May. So we'll share how after this with attendees what our events are and give you links that you could continue the discussion with us and other folks at SAP at this event. It's a great opportunity to meet other people on similar journeys. Like I know Mike's going to be there as well. We'll also, Argano will be hosting other in-person events with other people from our customer base throughout the year, and we'll ensure that that those in attendance here also have the opportunity to evaluate those and participate. Thank everybody again, and hope to see you at Sapphire.